Murray Newlands here with Search Engine Journal in San Francisco with John Rampton.
Hey, how's it going, you guys?
And Mark from Linkdex.
Hi guys.
So in this video we're going to be looking at the topic of what challenges are agencies having with SEO and how is it evolving? Mark, what questions are you having? You go to lots of shows, you speak to lots of SEO people. What problems are they having? What are the key challenges?
I think the thing for us is that we see the same thing happening over the last 12 months. We're still talking about efficiency.
Yeah.
We've now translated that into big data, and what does big data mean? And it means obviously different things for different agencies. And I think that what is out there is still a challenge for these agencies to manage a certain amount of data, especially as search has become more of an advertising channel perhaps than it was 12 or 24 months ago, and being recognized more as a way for agencies to do a job for their clients that is more about dealing with data as it is about dealing with the traditional advertising approach.
So what difficulties do you hear people bringing up, John?
So a lot of what I see is enormous spreadsheets. Right. I mean, I work on them. I'm guilty. So I'll basically suck down every bit of data that I have on a client and put it into a spreadsheet because that's what I do. And because I know I can manipulate it and do stuff. I mean, what are you finding, helps with that?
Try to avoid a sales pitch right now, shall I? So this is where software's going, isn't it? It's about how we manage data, how we visualize data, how we ensure that it's easy to translate, how we help agencies, not just Linkdex, but all types of software out there, how they're helping the agencies report effectively. It is a huge amount of data they're suddenly having to play with. It's very different, say 5 years ago, when search was seen as a way, maybe you need to buy a few links, you need to generate a few smart ways of moving yourself up the rankings in Google. Now it's a lot bigger. It's a lot more about having a long-term strategy. And long-term strategies in search mean lots of data. And with lots of data, you've then got to learn how to manage that data efficiently and effectively. Otherwise, you're going to just end up in a bit of a mess of where the hell do I start? And that's really, I think, where software companies out there are having to really adapt and create an opportunity for the data to be visualized, for data to be usable. And if you can't action the data you're buying, then you're spending a lot of money on a lot of nothing.
Yeah. So what are you seeing SEO agencies prioritize their focus on, and that's working for them?
That's a good question. I think that the issue that's out there is that everybody's trying to look for their own solution. Everybody's trying to find a way to manage campaigns in a way that perhaps there isn't a lot of consistency yet. And so there are some great tools out there, great platforms out there that are managing that process though, and bringing consistency to the markets and helping them manage that data problem in a way that they can continue to manage over a period of time, rather than having to change the way they do things every 3 months because there's a great big new thing out there. Yeah. And I think that's the change that we're going to see most over the next 12 months is how that's visualized, how there's a consistency to how we talk about it and how we refer to it, and how data is going to be at the center of what they do, but not necessarily be the problem that it's been for them over the last year or so. Yeah.
So going along with that, how do you see social impacting that?
There's a question. I think it depends what you mean by social. So in many respects, we at Linkdex have a situation where we're looking at how the author tag is working, how people are writing on the internet, how influential they are. And understanding the influence of authors is going to be a major thing for search companies, or search engine agencies, sorry, in the future. And it very much is now, a here and now situation. When you're looking outside of that at the social impact or the impact of social, such as Facebook and more so I think Twitter, it's a matter of understanding who is doing what in order to create an influential situation. So how influential are these people that are talking? Yeah. We talk about primary influencers and then the secondary influencers. So who's writing and then who's writing about who's writing. Yep. And that kind of thing becomes, I think, quite an interesting situation for the agencies and for the clients. I mean, who they want to be written about. Yep. So who are the people to write about you? and who are the people to mention that you've been written about.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be an interesting play over the next year as well.
So what would you do in authorship? I mean, this is something we talked about last video that we did, is all about authorship in guest posting. But what would happen if an author is influential in multiple things? Does it degrade their influence? What's your opinion on that?
I think that it's more about how relevant the content is. So if they're strong in writing about multiple areas, but they are literally strong by sector, they're able to have an opinion that is going to resonate across in multiple sectors. By its nature, that's not going to be a big issue. It's when you have authors that are trying to be everything to everybody, when actually there's no level of expertise there. But I think that'll be found out pretty quickly.
Okay. So, next question, links. Do you think they're dying?
Not according to what we're seeing, no. I think the importance in links is pretty much out there now. People understanding that it's got to have both the relevancy, that it's got to be real, it's got to mean something. You can't just go and buy these links anymore. I think finding the right people to link to you and how influential those individual links is, that's where linking is. It's not about necessarily just a huge amount of volume anymore. It's now about making sure that that it has a relevancy to what you're doing, and that there's a reason that it exists. I think without that reason, that's what our friends at the search engines are looking at. It is, how relevant is this, and how is there a reason that it's really there, or are you just trying to, create a situation where the volume of your links is up, but actually nobody's really looking at that and nobody cares. After all, what they're trying to do is act like a human being. They're trying to give you a result that you would actually want if you had the capacity to go and do that search result yourself. And so I think that hasn't changed a great deal from what people have been saying for the last 6 months. Relevancy is everything, and volume is just simply not as important anymore. At the same time, one relevant link isn't good enough.
Influence is a big factor in that? I mean, relevancy, I could have a site that I launched yesterday on some random hosting site in Egypt that's talking about cremation, and I have a cremation client, and that's 100% relevant, but that site is a nobody. That's 100% relevancy. So how does influence of sites
You're absolutely right.
that?
It's got to be a combination of the two things. So if you've got a site that nobody's ever read and it's really relevant to your content, of course, it's not going to be as powerful as if you've got a very influential site that is also relevant. And in the end, you're looking to strike that balance. You don't want an influential site that isn't relevant necessarily. You want a site that's both relevant and influential and can actually drive both an interest from a search engine point of view, but also an interest from a consumer point of view or a user point of view.
So with big data, are you seeing that links on non-relevant sites are hurting sites at all? Are you seeing anything like that?
I don't know. I think that the information's there. It's how you translate that information. And is that the situation? I think that there are probably examples of that being the case. But I'm not sure that at this stage that is a major issue. I think what the major issue for, say, Google is more the ability to disavow things that certainly are no longer relevant to your cause and probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. But people putting up links on slightly non-influential sites, as long as they're still relevant, that's not going to be painful. It's just not going to have the impact you want.
So going along those same lines, how would you ratio it? I mean, SEOs love ratios and love getting down to the nitty gritty. Would you say it's 50% relevant, 40% the content and the influence of the site, and then 10% like the authorship? Or what kind of breakdown would you give on?
There's a secret sauce there.
Trying to get the secret sauce. I mean, you guys analyze a lot of data behind a lot of companies.
We do.
I mean, do you have any kind of general breakdown?
I don't think one is looking for a general breakdown though. So even across all of our products, we're not looking at and saying here's the best generic way to do things. We're saying here's how to dive deep into the data and find out what's going to work for you. I think that search still remains fairly fairly individual in the way that we have to look at it and say this is right for this particular site, but it may not be right for this particular site. So there's no single way of solving this. After all, you are trying to create the right sort of environment for your site, the right sort of environment for a search engine to look at you. The right sort of results come from actually knowing your product in the first place and knowing what people want to talk about your products. You bring those things together, of course that's going to have more of an impact than just approaching it with one generic, here's, I want 50% that are relevant, I want 40% that are authors, and the 10% that I don't care about are probably the most influential of all. So you've got to be very careful about how you approach that.
Okay. Fantastic. Mark, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, pleasure, Mark, and thanks for everybody for watching. Again, join us next week for another edition where we talk about the state of search here, and make sure to use hashtag SEJournal. And I'm John Rampton.
I'm Mark Smith, thank you.
I'm Newlands, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time.